Gray's research on Eliot ultimately allowed him to meet Ezra Pound, who ignited Eliot's career as a poet by assisting in the publication of Prufrock and Other Observations and editing The Wasteland. While Gray was working on his master's thesis in the mid-1950s called The Symbolical Continuity in the Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, he called Ezra Pound to assist with the paper. Pound not only responded but asked Gray to visit him while he was a patient at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C. He provided corrections and suggestions on the thesis.
I was living on my family's cotton plantation in Louisiana at the time. I was doing research for my master's thesis, and I wrote Mr. Pound a letter and addressed it to St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C. I received a penny postcard in return, telling me to stop by and see him the next time I was in the area. I first met Mr. Pound in 1952. When we met, we took an instant liking to one another. I was fortunate enough to talk with him about The Wasteland, which he had edited, cut down to half its size, and revised the final draft. We discussed The Wasteland and other of Eliot's poems.
Gray continued to have meetings with Pound at St. Elizabeth's, which led to a long correspondence between the two. He described his encounters with Pound and the poet himself.
Unfortunately, when I knew him, he was in his late 60s and was getting a bit dowdy. Mr. Pound was neurotic. He was politically unrealistic. He came to realize this, I think, but by then it was too late. Mr. Pound had his bad and good times. There was no room for moderation in his moods. Mr. Pound referred to himself as Grandpa and sometimes Ez. We would have hours of conversation. Mr. Pound was a very good man and very generous. He would put you in contact with his friends and acquaintances. When I went to Europe, he helped me immeasurably in this fashion.